Hello and welcome back to the Two First Boxing Show, episode 7, and it's been another cracking weekend of boxing. Delighted for all of you to be joining me here today. It's funny because I keep on obviously touching on this show and things that I want to do. I think there's a couple of features which I will be bringing into. It's just kind of getting my arse into gear and actually moving forward with those bits. But got an interview dropping at some point. I would have liked to have included some of it in this, but I don't know. I don't really know how I kind of go about that. If you kind of recommend it for or do it for one publication, so I don't know. I'll be looking into that and bringing more people onto the show is like I said in the past, exactly what I want to be doing. But for now, we're just gonna sit in this completely uncomfortable chair and continue to talk boxing. So we'll start off with obviously Devin Haney's unanimous decision over Jorge Linares. Good fight, really good fight. I've said this to a couple of people that I believe it was the right time for Devin Haney to take that sort of fight against someone as experienced as Jorge Linares. So yeah, I was impressed. I was impressed with Devin Haney. I think the last couple of rounds really showed a lot about his heart, showed character to sort of come through them, and I do think that he is going to have to, that addition with Ben Davison, I believe that will pay off because it seemed to help him with a couple of changes. Devin Haney, I think we've kind of realised that he doesn't do well under pressure, but he did okay against someone like Jorge Linares, and when it's against someone of that caliber, I think that's all you can really ask for. You don't want to be asking too much of Devin Haney, but yeah, I thought it was brilliant from Linares. We're catching him with that the short right hand in the 10th round, really seemed to unsettle Devin Haney, but just fantastic from Devin to kind of come back from that and secure the victory. I don't know really what will be next from Jorge Linares. Did feel like it was, too little too late. Really should have capitalised on that sort of opening at the end of the 10th round and kind of, even in the 11th round, Haney's legs weren't really there. I think kind of Linares let the fight slip away, unfortunately for him. And for Haney, kind of just holding on, using that to his advantage to kind of see out the 11th round, and then 12th round he was a little bit better, but pretty much the same, sort of holding and jabbing, and wasn't the Haney that we saw for the first sort of 6, 7, 8 rounds where he was putting together them power punching combinations. But I did like that version of Devin Haney, and I think that's going to make it very exciting to see where he goes from here, who he faces next, which is exactly what we're going to talk about. Obviously, I think his ideal next opponent would be Teofimo Lopez. I think everybody would love to see that fight. We all want to see the start of these 4 horsemen. I think is the best way to kind of call them. Some people have called them the 4 kings, but obviously they're not the 4 kings. The modern day 4 kings. I think I did a piece on that a very long time ago now. Look, they're a fantastic quartet of fighters, of young, hungry fighters. And yeah, I think, Lopez would be the one that makes sense because then you've got the real undisputed champion. And yeah, I think it would make sense. I just don't see it happening just yet. I think Teofimo Lopez considers himself as the undisputed champion. He has the WBC franchise belt. And I think he'll look to take on someone like a Josh Taylor. I think that's, that's the fight that a lot of people want to see. That's the fight that I'd really like to see for Josh Taylor next, rather than him moving up to face Terence Crawford. I think a big homecoming defence against, one of the boxing's newest biggest stars, Teofimo Lopez. I don't think Josh Taylor should turn that down. But, there's so many fights at the moment we can put all these fighters together with. And Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez is definitely a good one. I just think realistically, we're more likely to see Devin Haney versus Ryan Garcia, which still is a fantastic fight. Ryan Garcia was meant to face Javier Fortuna, who is just one of the most unluckiest guys that I've heard of in sort of, I don't know how to say it, like failed attempts at world title shots. Just, luck hasn't rubbed his way, let's say. So, yeah, I think if Garcia doesn't face Fortuna next, then I think, jump straight into that fight with Devin Haney. Let's get that fight sorted. They faced each other in the amateurs, and we would love to see it in the pros. Everybody would. It's time to start, the time is perfect. They both come off sort of the biggest wins of their careers. I think, that would be the perfect fight to happen next, and the winner faces Teofimo Lopez. Makes perfect sense. Or Javante Davis. Just want to see all of them face each other. Why not? Yeah, so that was that. Good job to Devin Haney. Congratulations to him on a great win. Another person who had a great win, and this really was a sort of statement. It was a destructive win. It was eye-catching. Nonito Donaire's 4th round stoppage of Nordine Oubaali was just sensational. At the age that he is, is he 38? Yeah, 38 years old. The Filipino Flash, still an absolute force at bantamweight. That left hook is it's insane. I just loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I think a lot of people were not necessarily writing Donaire off because they always knew that the left hook was going to be a strong force, but not many people were picking him to win. And it was kind of sad to see, I suppose, because everybody knows how good Donaire was. And, in his last fight against Naoya Inoue, he was absolutely fantastic there. Just came up short, against a really good fighter, one of the best in the world. So, over the moon for Nonito Donaire, really. And I can't wait to see what happens next for him. Obviously, I think everyone would love to see the rematch with Naoya Inoue. Again, it's one of them. Don't get me wrong, I think there's a good chance that we could see that. Next, Naoya Inoue is facing somebody that I've never heard of. Or no, I think I've heard the name, but I don't know too much about him. Let's go check that name. Who was it that he's facing? Michael Dasmarinas. So yeah, not too fussed about that fight in particular. Would love to see the rematch. But I also think, a potential rematch with Rigondeaux or a fight with John Real Casimero, depends on who wins their fight in August. I think that would be perfect because then that's a unification. And then, we can potentially see if Donaire wins there. We can see Inoue Donaire for all the belts. That would be absolutely fantastic. The first fight was definitely deserving of the undisputed status, and I think, it would make sense to kind of merge that way. I think, Donaire fighting on on Showtime recently. I think they're looking in that direction to pair the winner of John Real Casimero and Rigondeaux against Nonito Donaire. Don't really know who wins that fight, to be fair. I'd kind of edge towards Casimero just because I think Rigondeaux's still, a good fighter. Don't get me wrong, a few years back he was one of the best. Just old now, to put it nicely, I suppose. Don't really know how much he's got left. And it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting as well if we get to see the Donaire Rigondeaux fight, because it's been so many years since they last fought. It was a completely different version of Rigondeaux that we're used to. So, I think that's what will be next. I think Donaire's, going to... Congratulations to him, as well as Devin Haney, like we were saying. Congratulations to them both. Fantastic wins. They both need to go and enjoy those big wins. And, just in a few months' time, potentially by the end of the year, both of them, I'm expecting to be in very big fights. Whether it's unifications or, just a big defence, who knows? Nonito Donaire, oldest world champion in bantamweight history. Incredible feat. Well done to him. Now, I literally was wondering if there was actually going to be any boxing on this weekend, because I had a quick look on BoxRec. Nothing really sort of sprang to mind. I was wondering what was going on. Jarrett Hurd is facing Luis Arias, but before we touch on that, we're going to touch on Floyd Mayweather's fight with Logan Paul. It's going to be a bit of a funny one, I feel. It's not an actual professional bout. I believe it's a charity exhibition. And yeah, they haven't really had that much sort of like back and forth from what I've noticed. It's more been Jake Paul when Floyd Mayweather, Logan Paul's younger brother. So I just don't know how this fight is really happening, to be honest. Look, like, it's quite easy to kind of pick what will happen. You've got Logan Paul, who's an inexperienced boxer. He's a wrestler in the past, and he's making a crossover and making a lot of money by taking this fight against Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather, one of the best to ever lace them up. I can't see a way for him losing, unless there is a lot of money involved. That would be incredible, wouldn't it? If Logan Paul just managed to knock out Floyd Mayweather, that would just send boxing Twitter into absolute hell. So yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting fight. I think you'll just see a very tactical Mayweather, and Logan Paul sort of trudging along. It will be interesting as well because of obviously the size difference. Like, Logan Paul fights at cruiserweight. Mayweather's last fight, I think it was 154, you know. I want to say it was a catch weight of 154 or something like that. And he didn't come in and weight. He just, you know, naturally fits at the welterweight limit. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. My friend and former work colleague Andy Piroir was on his last stretch of his American tour to cover this fight. We'll definitely be checking out his content, as I love all of his work. And yeah, I don't really know what's going to happen. I just kind of expect, like I said, Floyd Mayweather to be sort of like calculated and control the fight, and I don't think it'll really be too interesting. I really think obviously Logan Paul knows how good Floyd Mayweather is, and it'll be a bit of a farce to watch it, and he'll just try and, you know, chop the tree down in a way. Just throw any shots that he possibly can. I don't know how you really beat Floyd Mayweather. I don't know how Logan Paul, you know, how Logan Paul is going to beat him. So yeah, fuck it. I will tune in. I will watch it. Why not? I think it's on Sky Sports box office, which is a crying shame that they did that and didn't pick up Josh Taylor's fight with Jose Ramirez the other week. Never mind. We move. Jarrett Hurd versus Luis Arias. Seen Arias fight a couple of times now. I've never really been overly impressed. I think his fight against Gabriel Rosado seemed like really good matchmaking. Didn't really gel too much. You know, I think their styles were just a little bit too similar. And then he fought Luke Keeler in 2019, and again wasn't really overly impressed there. So yeah, I think he's going to have to go into this fight fully motivated. I hope he is, and I think he's really going to have to try and you know, stop the comeback trail, I suppose, of Jarrett Hurd. Like, he had an outing last year, and then hasn't fought since January in 2020. But you know, his loss to Julian Williams, it was a close fight, but you could see that Williams was really controlling the fight and knocked him down a couple of times, or once. So yeah, it is the comeback trail for Jarrett Hurd, and I really like Jarrett Hurd. I think Jarrett Hurd could potentially stop Luis Arias. Maybe. Lower weight, Arias is quite big for 154, I would think. Is this fight at middleweight, or? I'm not too sure, you know. I would have just assumed that it was going to be at super welter. Interesting. Maybe. Yeah, I think Jarrett Hurd potentially stops him. Luis Arias has been put down a couple of times. Talked a load of shite a couple of years back against Daniel Jacobs, I remember that, and then just did absolutely nothing. I think if he turns up like that against Jarrett Hurd, yeah, I think it will kind of be over before the halfway point. But yeah, I think sort of round 7 to 9, I think that's where Hurd will probably step on the gas and potentially stop him. Jarrett Hurd a couple of years ago, the 154 division is always changing obviously, but a couple of years ago Jarrett Hurd looked like the next big thing at 154, and I expect him to kind of, try and get back to that as best as possible. I think he's, fully motivated to try and get back there. So, I hope that's what happens. We will watch that fight, I suppose, and see what happens. Now we'll just obviously come on to a couple of bits of news pieces, starting with, so I was reading that, and I was going to read it word for word. Jean Pascal fails a drug test, so he is out of his fight with Badou Jack because he tested positive for 3 different substances. Scenes of Jarrell Miller. Look, it's always going to happen. It's why we have year-round testing. I think with COVID, a lot of athletes have kind of seen a door to, kind of use it to their advantage. I know there wasn't a lot of testing over the majority of COVID of what it has been for the past year and a half. I'm not necessarily saying that's what Jean Pascal was doing this entire time. But look, when you're fighting at this level, this is what I never understand, is that it's always the guys who are at the very top level of the sport who are caught out. And it's just kind of like, when you don't admit it, you aren't making a good name for yourself. Because if you're that good of an athlete, if you're considered one of the best in the world, which Jean Pascal pretty much is, he's had sort of back-to-back wins against Marcus Brown and Badou Jack, was considered a sort of a second wind in his career. It's just a crying shame that he won't admit that he's taken the substances, because you should know what you're taking when you're at that level. It's the same situation with Canelo a few years back. The whole horse meat. Canelo's a goddamn superstar in the sport, and he should have known what was going into his system back then. Jean Pascal's no different, and I think all athletes should take responsibility for what they're putting into their body, because it's a dangerous sport. We've seen some horrible stuff happen in the past few years. We've also seen some brilliant moments. So until somebody does die and then it's found out that the person who killed them was taking drugs, I just don't think we're going to see much of a change. I don't really know too much about the ban. Is the ban on here? What do they test for? Free steroids, drostanolone metabolite, and epitropiolone. I don't think I recognise any of them, to be fair. That's a new one for me. But yeah, that was meant to be on the Mayweather Paul fight, wasn't it? So, never mind. He won the WBA 175-pound championship. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't say anything about a ban or things like that. Expect that to come out in sort of the next few days to weeks. I don't know. Maybe he won't fight again. To be brutally honest, maybe that's the case. It's a shame. I'm going to stop talking before I just chat some absolute shite about it. I think I've said enough. Risky subjects, really. I don't really like talking about performance enhancing drugs, because it's just I've tried to educate myself on it multiple times. Read books by Thomas Hauser, and obviously my own research online and things like that. But it's still one of them areas that's a bit of a grey area for me when it comes to boxing. Don't get me wrong, I kind of understand most of the processes thanks to Thomas Hauser and how athletes go about it. But the whole cycles and things like that some athletes will try to go through, not necessarily boxers, just everywhere. It does get a little bit confusing to me. I've became a lot more aware of just performance enhancing drugs in general being used in sport. I don't know. I don't necessarily like talking about it. Anyway. So we're going to move on to the final subject. John Fury. He's been making headlines. He done a lovely interview with BT Sport. Definitely go check it out if you haven't seen it. There's loads of stuff to really cover, but we're just going to obviously cover the most important bits. One of the things that he said was something like Tyson should drop the WEC belt and go and fight Anthony Joshua. I don't think it really made much sense, because I think it wasn't necessarily the title that was holding him back. It was the contract with specifically Deontay Wilder. Tyson Fury needs to face him next. So yeah, it was. I think it was important to kind of clarify that situation. Yeah, it was a bit of a... I obviously understand where John Fury is coming from. Just he really wants that fight to happen. Everyone wants that fight to happen. And it's a shame that it didn't get over the line, because how quickly did Fury Wilder 3 get sorted? Very, very quickly. So it's a shame. Maybe he should be saying that Anthony Joshua should be vacating the belt to fight Tyson Fury, because I think everybody would agree that Joshua Fury cements the winner in British boxing legacy. And there can be no doubt in anyone's mind who the top heavyweight is then. A lot of people think it's Tyson Fury, a lot of people think it's Anthony Joshua, but we just need to know when they face each other. But yeah, John Fury has also obviously mentioned a lot about the team that is behind Tyson Fury. Was very disappointed with how they have dealt with things, how quickly the Wilder fight got made, how they never really put too much effort into making a fight with Joshua. And yeah, I kind of see... John Fury is a very ecstatic character, as I'm sure most of you will know if you know your boxing. I just think... Look, I'm not saying that John Fury is gone over the top, because I don't want him hunting me down. But yeah, I can see glimpses of it. Every time there was an update about Joshua Fury, no matter how little it was Eddie Hearn doing the talk. Bob Arum, Frank didn't really hear too much of him in the build-up to it. Eddie Hearn was putting in the work from what we were seeing on the outside. Whether that's the true story or not, we don't know, really. We probably will never know. We just hope that the fight can still get made. And look, it just doesn't bode well for Tyson Fury's relationship with Bob Arum if his dad is getting involved like that. But look, I'm not going to argue with John Fury. I think, he's got his son's best interests at heart. Let's put it that way. And, so he should. I'm happy that he's kind of putting news out there and trying to, get people on his side and, glorify his son, because I would be doing exactly the same. So, yeah, it's a really sticky situation. I hope it all gets resolved with Tyson Fury and his promotion team and management team. We'll just have to wait and see what happens when the dust settles. I expect a sort of exclusive interview with Tyson Fury from somebody very, very soon. It should be interesting. Definitely. Looking forward to it. I think that's everything. Can't think of anything else. There's not really too much boxing on this weekend other than Mayweather Paul and Jarrett Hurd. Yeah, I think we've covered all the sort of recently announced fights. There hasn't really been anything announced in the last week, I don't think. So yeah, we're just back to normal, enjoying life. Everything is good. Everything's gravy. Yeah, thank you very much for watching. Please be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you to all the listeners on Spotify as well. I hope you are enjoying the show. And I promise that, it might take me a few more weeks, but we will eventually get a more professional setup, more professional show on the road soon. Very soon. Yeah. Okay. Right. Bye-bye.